you hosted just the final was played yesterday.
Exactly.
What informed that particular decision?
Well, to be honest with you, when you look at the kind of human capital we have, especially among young people, sometimes the need for us to kind of harness that is to explore every opportunity we have. And one of those greatest opportunities is football. Football is one thing that brings people together. And so putting that tournament in place is to create an avenue where young people will converse together, come together, explore, and find out what do we have in common socially and other aspects of things we can explore for the common good of all of us. So
Okay.
that was the reason.
All right. And yesterday the final was played. Can you tell us the exciting episode that took place and the
Side
takeaways
attractions,
from everything? And how do you feel at the end of this whole thing? How
seeing
do you
new
feel?
talents and the
I
rest of
feel
them.
really great, and most especially considering the team. So the final was played yesterday between a team in Bokos and Mangu, and it was so competitive to a point that it went all the way goalless draw,
Wow.
and the winners were determined through a penalty kick
Oh
out.
wow.
Wow.
And the guys were determined to ensure that they came on top. The Mangu team came on top,
Wow.
but I told every one of them that in this competition there's no loser. All of us are winners because at the end of the day, it strengthened the bond of unity and brought many of us together. And we saw the possibility of what lies ahead with a lot of potentials, and we intend to build on that.
Okay.
And Andrew, quickly to add to that, also the ID Gang tournament that is being organized in order to reconcile people across the 6 local governments where he is the senator representing them. Today, the semi-final will kickstart between Barkin Ladi and Jenta Adamu by 3 p.m. rather. And tomorrow, Rafan and Jingri will be slugging it out at the semi-finals. And we hope that that will go a long way to promote peace, unity, and also reconcile people across different divides.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Dacha, let's quickly go into the issue of security. You are also a security expert. You've seen how things work in the United States, particularly, and other societies. Uh, do you think there's something we're not doing right with the level of insecurity in Nigeria? And if there is, what do you think we're not doing right and at this particular moment?
I want to say that I commend the security agencies, especially the individuals on the front lines who are daily going out there to do the best they can to ensure that our lives and properties are in place. But I want to also say that for anyone who is trying to be able to bring about security of lives and property, there are tools, there are parameters, there are decisions that need to be taken in order to get those things achieved. uh, so, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? I feel like there are a lot of things that we haven't been able to put in place to get that done. One, you can begin to look at when it comes to about security intelligence. There is no way we can say with the rise of insecurity in Nigeria, in pockets of places that are going on, that the security agencies don't have intelligence report with regards to what is happening before it happens and how to cope that. But when you don't deploy the right resource, when you don't deploy the right mechanism, now we begin to have the fallout and we have people falling victims to such failure. And these are some of the things that we are not doing right. Secondly, when you begin to look at the need for us to invest in our security agencies, there is constantly the need to invest either in human capital, in social capital, and also in equipment to allow security agencies to go out there and deploy their expertise. But when they are not equipped with the capacity to do that, even when they are out there, their ability to bring about the needed result will be defeated because you have these terrorist organizations, you have these criminals out there terrorizing people, destroying lives and properties, and you are expecting people who are supposed to go out there to combat them, you are supposed to equip them with equal or more capacity to be able to combat such force. But when you don't give them what it takes to do that, now that purpose will be defeated. And that is one area. Now, is it that we don't have the means and the capacity to do that? I absolutely don't think so. But when we fail to channel our resources, we allow our selfish interest to divert resources that is meant for what is supposed to be for the people to go into private pockets. Now we have collateral damage from from citizens being punished or going through such situations because one person, two individuals have decided to siphon what is meant for the common good of all of us.
Okay, let's look at some of the complexities and also some of the major encumbrance that some of these security men are encountering. I researched over the weekend and discovered that Borno State alone is bigger than the entire Republic of Ireland and is also 4 times the size of Kano. It's 20 times the size of Lagos and 2.5 times the size of the entire southeastern part of the country. Do you think this is a major hindrance?
It is a it I can't say hindrance, but I'll say a challenge. Now, considering the landmass, considering the size, that also creates a large playing field for both the criminals and the security agencies. Now, how do we tackle that? We tackle that by employing equal amount of human capital with enough ability to be able to handle that situation. Is it that we are not able to do that? Absolutely not. But when we don't prioritize what is supposed to be prioritized, we have that kind of a problem. When you look at our security agencies, ideally, in a community, you're supposed to have at least one policeman to 50,000 people. But Nigeria is different. The case is far wide. And you begin to have our resources thinly spread because we don't channel it in the right direction. So, considering the landmass of Borno itself, it provides an opportunity for these criminal organizations to freely operate, but at the same time, we also have to counter by creating equal or more capacity in order to handle that
In the
situation.
recent past, the former chief of army staff came up with an idea called the super camp, where super camp where all the military battalions were housed in one location. Do you think that actually was the best approach, looking at the fact that we need to deploy at various locations so that when it comes to counter attack system mechanism, we can be able to repel those attacks at that particular moment. But when they were all housed in one location, connecting between one location to the other became a big challenge. Don't you think that was also another challenge?
Whatever military strategy he was using in that, I'm not privy to the reason for that. But one thing I can say, the strategy of putting military personnel in one location or not might not necessarily be a factor as per se, because one thing we need to look at, each military personnel come, they have their different expertise. You have people with expertise in terms of intelligence gathering, you have people with expertise in terms of counterterrorism, you have people with expertise in terms of frontline battalions. Now you have to be able to know, in each platoon, in each region, each of these people with different expertise have to belong in these different units for them to be able to collaborate. Now, if you choose to put them in one location, what is the strategy? Is it because you have an intel that the enemy or the force you intend to combat is coming from one direction, so you need to put all your forces in one direction? That I don't have privy to. But if we have a situation whereby we have scattered or pockets of attacks coming from different locations and we have that reasonable intelligence, then we need to disperse our resources to be able to counter for those different locations whereby we have such attacks are coming. In
Okay.
order to converse our resource in one place, then we are depriving other areas whereby such surprise attacks can come up.
Hmm.
And these guys are intelligent. I mean, these guys are military personnel that have the training. They should know what they are doing. So I don't want to kind of knock down their strategy, but if the strategy is not working, then you need to rethink the strategy.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry,
let's
Bello,
look.
before you ask the next question, listener is still Unity Train. Start sending your questions, comments, and contributions to our text message line 0703 764 5447. I take that again 0703 764 5447. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you can send your contributions at Unity Radio FM TV. And we want to mourn with yesterday Nigerian Air Force plane that crashed in Abuja. We forgot to mention that about 7 officers were the occupants of that particular plane actually died in that crash. More information will be released subsequently.
Okay, let's look at the role of technology in this whole thing. As a security expert, what do you think we need to do? Because they always see that this bush, the forest are very, the terrain is not very nice one at all, and probably that's part of the encumbrance. So, what do you think as a security expert we need to do to introduce technology into this whole thing?
That's a very, very good question, Bello. And I want to assure you that this terrain, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. When you look at other battlefronts that has happened around the world, there are terrains that are even more challenging than the terrains we have. But the battles were successfully conducted because of the deployment of technology. One thing that we have at our disposal right now is the ability to use aerial images. And the Nigerian military cannot give an excuse that it has no access to aerial image. Because if you have an access to aerial image, you are able to penetrate beyond such a challenged terrain. And at the same time, when you deploy military forces with the capacity for night vision ability to penetrate such situations, then that shouldn't be an excuse. We have the air power, we have the land power, and we have the technology that gives us access into those difficult terrains before we even launch there. We have the ability to deploy a drone that can capture the images, live images of where we intend to operate. So for Nigeria not to use technology, I think it's a terrible excuse. And the people in charge of that, if they claim they don't know that there are technologies like that in this day and age, I think it's just a sheer excuse. So that is something the military or the security agencies need to begin to deploy.
Do we have enough resources to acquire these kind of technologies? Looking at how much the United States, particularly the UK, France, invest in defense, do we have the resources to acquire such technology?
Andrew, we don't have to compete with UK. We don't have to compete with the United States. These technologies are not expensive. I can tell you a one night vision drone that has the capacity to coordinate an aerial image attack is going to be less than $1 million. Now, I'm telling you because I have an experience with that. When I say less than $1 million, I mean terribly less than $1 million. Now, is $1 million too expensive for us to invest in that? Is $1 million too hard for us to invest in that? How are the things? Let's look at what are the things are we investing in. If we know that we can invest in one drone that can give us access to an aerial image to allow our military force to march out into those forests with degree of certainty, knowing where they are headed to, because they've already gotten the live footage of what they are about to encounter, is that an investment too hard for us to invest in? I don't think it is. So we don't have to invest in a large drones that are too expensive. We have mobile drones that we can use. We can train our men to operate those things, and those things are not too hard to operate. I kid you not, you can go to YouTube and see those drones and how to operate them. There are manuals and training and tutorials on how to do that.
Okay, let's look at these bandits because it seems their own modus operandi is also different from those of the Boko Haram members. They are more commercial and they commodify innocent Nigerians and they turn them into a thing that they also really treat. What do you think is the best strategy to combat this type of people at this moment?
First and foremost, it is sad, it is unfortunate. And I want to totally, this is my opinion, but I think there is a collaboration of these terrorists. I don't like to call them bandits. I think doing that is kind of trivializing the criminal act. These guys are terrorists, and they must have people within they are cooperating with. And the thing is, when you incentivize injustice, you give it room to continue to perpetuate itself.
Mm.
When bandits continue to kidnap people and use financial reward as a means to negotiate, and we continue to negotiate with them and empower them, now we are incentivizing their action and allowing them to continue to do that. In fact, I have seen somebody jokingly putting on Facebook, he said, it feels like now I'm going to join the bandits because that is the most lucrative thing to do.
Mm.
And of course, that is the thinking. Now, the question is, do we have the capacity to deal with that? These terrorists, are they faceless? Are they unknown? Do we have access to them? Of course we do. We have individuals in this country that have access to them, that know where to get them. We have technology that we can put in the things we relate with to track their location. We have people in our society that have met with them, that have negotiated with them. Why can't we use security force to go in there and swoop them over? Why can't we ensure that these people that are captured, are penalized, are meant to face the wrath of the law? Because when you don't punish an act of injustice, you give it room to continue to happen again. The reason why we see these things happening over and over is because we treat it with a kid glove, or rather we reward them for their action. And it's unfortunate. And until we take a different way in dealing with this, we will have not seen anything yet.
Okay, let's look at each of these things that happened. We had the Kankara in, I think, December, and then just a few weeks later, we had the Kagara again in Niger State, where these people. But before then, they kidnapped about 56 passengers from a bus
Mhm.
in from the Niger State Transport Authority. That's also not forgetting that in Taraba State, between Takum and one other village, the same people also kidnapped about 26 people that are going for a wedding, and they had to pay ransom. That's not also forgetting that some traders from Kano going to Aba themselves also were kidnapped, and they also paid ransom, lots of ransom. In all these things, do you think that we actually, because what am I trying to say? The Kankara kidnappers were later allowed to go without any justice. And the second day, the same boys kidnapped some children coming from Arabic school. So is it part of the negotiation that don't touch the kidnappers? Do you think that is part of the negotiation? Because I can't understand why none of them, because I read the interview of Dadawa, he didn't even say that there was a single casualty on their side when they went to Kankara. So is it part of the negotiation that don't touch my anointed?
You know, I this is a thing that baffles many of us who are observing this situation, because like you say, you arrest a criminal and you allow them to go without making them to face the law.
Even
One,
when they
you
had already released the hostages.
exactly. Even if they haven't, the fact that we have access to them, we must make them face the law. Now, this could mean a lot of things, but I want to assume whoever is responsible for the decision to let these people go, such an individual is a direct or indirect beneficiary of their criminality. And until they can prove to us that they are not beneficiaries, then what is the incentive for letting them go? Why do we let criminals get away while innocent law abiding citizens are meant to face the wrath of these criminal gangs, this criminal enterprise? Now, it is terrible. I mean, there is no justification for that, and there's no explanation for whatever strategy that is. It is not a common sense strategy to arrest someone who has committed a crime and you allow them to go. And the antecedents has shown to us that letting them go motivate them to do that again over and over. And what are we showing? We are showing that our society is lawless. We don't have a government. We don't have a system. We don't have justice. We don't have people to enforce the law.
Looking at let's touch on economy. Put it side by side. Insecurity,
Mhm.
the level of unemployment in the country, the level of social injustice, and all of that. Do you think it's consistently fueling insecurity in the country, and how do we deal with this?
I can tell you from first-hand experience, insecurity has contributed and it is going to continue to contribute to the downward trend of the economic growth. Forget about the report that hey, we have pulled out of recession. That is just a report on paper. Pulling out of recession with no commensurate measure to show on how that affects the lives of people positively is just a report, because the lives of people are not getting better. The incomes of individuals are not getting better. I have a friend who is from Plateau State who has contemplated coming back home to run a farm, because personally, myself and him have been talking about that. Just before I came, he's telling me, man, I changed my mind. I'm like, why? He said, look, with all that is happening, I don't think I am going to go and invest
Return
back
back to
home.
Nigeria.
He is from home, from here. And he is changing his mind about that. And that is one person that I have direct access to. How many more people do you think have made that decision?
Hmm.
And we are talking about attracting foreign investors. These are people that don't have a stake in the land. These are people that don't have any lineage. These are people that don't have anything. The only thing that will bring them to invest is for profit. And if they don't see anything that will protect their profit, if they think they can come and invest and be in risk of being kidnapped, do you think they can do that? And so when we don't tackle insecurity, the ripple effects are many. It affects the economy, it affects the ability to create jobs, it affects the ability to generate a lot of enterprise, it affects the ability for growth and development. It's many. So this one issue of insecurity affects us as Nigerians, affects everything we do. And until we begin to deal with that, it is eating into the future of our children and children's children. We are creating a sense of hopelessness among our people, among the young people, and we are having young people living a life with no certainty of what is going to happen tomorrow because of the concern of not knowing what is going to happen.
So let's look at the politicizing of some of the strategies that some governments are also trying to introduce. In some cases, because of our multilingual nature as a country, Once a governor mentions that he's trying to bring in this strategy, then you see some people coming to say, no, you want to just profile us along our ethnic group, and that's exactly why you're trying to bring in this strategy. And then you still see situations where we still have even those that are also sympathizing with even some of the criminals, probably along ethnic and religious line. Can we actually get out of these doldrums without being emotional?
Until our leaders begin to be sincere with themselves. And unfortunately, when they are not sincere with themselves, the other time I was listening to a governor who was justifying an act of criminality, saying because these people are being attacked, they have the right to carry guns. And he failed to justify the reason why they, I mean, it doesn't really make sense. Now, when we allow sentiment, religious, and biases to influence our policy, we have the same problem we are having. In the first place, we fail to understand that by our constitution, a governor is in charge of his or her own state security. Now, if the federal government is not able to provide entirety of security, which of course it has not been able to do that, the governors are supposed to step in. In the past, we have followed a system whereby security is centralized at the federal system. But right now, the changing nature of our time and the dynamics of the new era we are getting into, or we have found ourselves, it is time for each entity, each state to be empowered to provide for its own security. Is there a potential for abuse? Absolutely. Then what do we need to do to ensure such things do not happen? Because we are not going to be the new place that is implementing that. Go to other places around the world. Local governments are in charge of their own security, but there are parameters, there are systems in place to ensure that such powers are not abused. Because even at the federal system, we see the abuse of the implementation of security. We see the abuse of power. But if we put systems in place to ensure that does not happen, then we'll be able to ensure that a governor is able to provide security for his or her own people. A local government is able to provide security for his or her own people. And another thing you mentioned is the idea that we have trivialized this by allowing religious and ethnic sentiments to come into play. Now, those people who are pushing for that, to be honest with you, I see them as the beneficiaries of our common, our general unfortunes, because I don't see any reason why you should fight the need to protect the common good of everyone because you think if we do that, it's going to disenfranchise some of us. Can you justify that? Can you give a proof? Is there any antecedent that shows that? Why can't we put heads together to do that rather than fighting each other on religious ground or ethnic ground? Because when you look at the problem that is happening, even though right now it is mostly identified to one sect of our ethnic divide, the reality is that every Nigerian is suffering from these terrorists, these so-called bandits that are attacking everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're Fulani, Hausa, Igbo, whatever. All of us are suffering from it. And until we isolate these criminals and deal with them as criminals, all of us collectively will continue to suffer and our commonwealth will continue to suffer.
All right, thank you very much. Listener, it's still Unity Train, your number one social, political, and current affairs program on radio. You've been listening to Mr. Moses Dachen, a security expert, a businessman, and entrepreneur based in the United States of America, joining us this morning. And we're taking a look at the state of the nation, particularly in security. We'd like to have you join the conversation via our text message line 0703-235-3315 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can send your contributions at Unity Radio FM TV. The studio live number is 0703-235-3315. Remember to turn off your radio set if you want to speak with us live in the studio. Name calling, foul language, stereotyping will not be tolerated on this platform. Remember also that comments made on this platform remain the opinion of those who make them and not of Unity 93.3 FM or TV. So be guided as you make your contributions. You can come to our commercial department, number 62 Zenaria Hills Layout here in Jos, to announce your goods, services, and products at pocket-friendly rates. Thank you very much. We'll take a short break when we return. We'll open the phone lines to have you join the conversation. And if you have any questions for our guest, he will respond to them. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this very short break. Stay here.